So as we saw a few days ago, Kevin Kiermaier took a game sheet that was dropped by the Blue Jays catcher Alejandro Kirk, and the Rays, they refused to give it back. And yesterday, the Toronto Blue Jays, they got their payback. What's going on, everyone? It's Fuzzy. Welcome back to yet another MLB recap. Thank you all so much for stopping by. If this is your first time on the channel, we do this every single day, so don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Also, use code Fuzzy on SeatGeek if you're going to any baseball games anytime soon to end the season. Save yourself 20 bucks off. We're going to break down the Jays versus Rays beef. We have Bryce Harper versus Fernando Tatis Jr. versus Juan Soto for the 2021 NL MVP race. And then we also have the Red Sox catching fire at the perfect moment along with the Cardinals. Let's go ahead and break down the American League wildcard before we talk about the NL, because there was a few more games for the NL yesterday. We have the Mariners facing off against the A's, and Kyle Seager now has 35 home runs and 100 RBIs. He accomplished both of those feats on the same swing, and he is inching towards a 40 career WAR. So maybe if he keeps this up for the next 4 or 5 years, he might get a few Hall of Fame votes, which is going to be tough, but hey, anything could happen. Tom Murphy, he drives in Abraham Toro, and Ty France belts his 17th home run of the year, and this was all for Chris Flexen. Yes, he does allow a home run, but he got through 7 innings, only allowed 3 base hits, and he had 8 strikeouts as Jared Kelenic, he came in clutch with a nice diving grab. He's also hitting .316 with 7 RBIs in his last 6 games, and the Mariners, they improved to 11-4 versus the A's. So I talked about it early on in the season. I wasn't impressed by the A's roster per se, and it's kind of showing to be true. I'm not saying they're bad by any means, but honestly, going into 2022, are you afraid of Oakland? I don't think so. The baseball gods set up the Yankees to make a push at the end of the season by giving them the Twins and then the Rangers, all in pretty much consecutive games. So the Yankees, they swept Texas yesterday, even though Texas jumped out to an early 3-0 lead. But New York, they grabbed 2 on a double from Kyle Higashioka, and then they got 1 more from DJ on a sack. Whoa, never mind. Adolis Garcia with his 14th outfield assist. He is second in the American League, right behind Hunter Renfroe. He has 14. Aaron Judge, he scores on a wild pitch, and then Gleyber Torres finally is starting to look like old school Gleyber Torres, just without the pop, but he is starting to find the gaps a little bit more and hit extra base hits. So his double grabs the lead, and then he scores on an error. And El Scary Gary, the Kraken, now has 23 home runs on the year. The Yankees come away with a 7-3 victory, and they did what they needed to do. They swept the Rangers. The Red Sox versus the Mets. Kyle Schwarber in the yellow uniforms is a cheat code. He has multiple home runs yesterday, but before that happened, JD Martinez and Kike Hernandez, they quickly added 2 more. And then, like we mentioned, Kyle Schwarber, he had a multi-home run game and 4 RBIs in the first 2 innings. Jose Iglesias starts a fun double play in the 3rd inning, and the Red Sox, they were not done scoring just yet. Verdugo, he scores JD Martinez, and then Jose Iglesias comes in clutch with the stick. He has an RBI triple that eventually turns into a Little League inside the park home run on an error, and Chris Sale had 8 strikeouts in 5 innings. Look at this strikeout against Javier Baez. The ball hit Javi. It just shows that his discipline is historically bad. The Red Sox have now won 5 games in a row while wearing the yellow jerseys. Those are the City Connect jerseys, and they were just given full approval to wear them in the playoffs, and overall, they've won 7 games in a row. And the final game from the AL wildcard race, like we mentioned, the Jays and the Rays, they have some beef between each other. Yandy Diaz, his sac fly starts a 6-run 3rd inning for the Tampa Bay Rays. Austin Meadows has a 3-run bomb to give him 103 RBIs on the season. Taylor Walls and Yandy, they make it 7-0. So the Jays, ultimately, they have nothing to lose aside from making sure that Kevin Kiermaier pays for what he did. Now, the pitcher said it was an accident, but come on, it's Kevin Kiermaier. He's the one that started all of this mess. In my opinion, I think that it was on purpose. So there was a few ejections. Now, the only thing is, Kevin Kiermaier said that he was surprised that he got hit. And honestly, I think that he looked the worst out of anyone. The Jays, they were going to hit him. I mean, honestly, if they asked for the game sheet back, just give it back to him. Again, I said it yesterday. Are you really that bad at hitting that you have to cheat? I don't think that it's cheating that Alejandro Kirk lost the game sheet. That is Kirk's fault. But to not give it back, to be that petty, to be that petulant, I don't understand that. But the Rays, they did get the last laugh. They take the W. They clinch their 3rd consecutive playoff berth. And Kevin, after the game, says he hopes that they face the Toronto Blue Jays in the playoffs. And honestly, I hope so as well, because it's getting real petty. I don't hate Kevin Kiermaier, by the way. He's actually one of my favorite players in baseball. I just don't like the way that he approached this, because he seemed like he was the victim, which is not the case at all. If we talk about the wild card, the Red Sox are 2 games ahead of anyone for 1st place. The Yankees are now in 2nd, surpassing the the Blue Jays. They're ahead by a half game. The Mariners are ahead of the A's now by 1 at 2.5 games back. So before we talk about the National League wildcard race, let's do a quick little fast cap of the games that didn't really matter. The Astros versus the Angels. Jordan goes 460 feet on this moonshot for his 32nd home run. He now has 101 RBIs. Chas McCormick was slick in the outfield yesterday. He has a nice grab in right field, and then we'll talk about him a little bit later because the Angels actually take the lead on a bases clearing double. Yuli comes back to tie it up at 5 apiece, and then Chas, he saves the game momentarily with a strike to home plate to complete a double play. This one goes to extras where the Astros end up with 9 runs, and yeah, they win it. Moving on over to the Nationals versus the Marlins. Yadiel Hernandez starts off the game with a solo shot, and Juan Soto blasts off after having a 117 mile per hour double in his first at bat. Juan Soto on the day drives in 3 RBIs, and Miami, they try to make a comeback with a 3-run 9th inning, but they do lose. Juan Soto in the second half is hitting .372 with 16 home runs, 72 walks to only 32 strikeouts with a 1217 OPS. We have not seen these numbers since Ted Williams and Barry Bonds, just to put it into perspective. And the last but not least, the Twins versus the Cubs. Frank the Tank, he's showing off the improved defense, but Max Kepler, he's showing off the improved plate discipline. As of late, he has been on fire. 2 home runs early for Joe Ryan, who at one point struck out 7 Cubs in a row and had 11 on the day. Honestly, Nelson Cruz for Joe Ryan, it looks like the Twins might have won that trade. All right, moving on over to the NL wildcard as the fast cap is over. Let's talk about the Phillies versus the Orioles. This was a quiet game because Keegan Aiken of the Orioles was actually matching Zach Wheeler pitch for pitch through 5 innings. Zach Wheeler had 9 strikeouts in 6, but Austin Hayes, he got to him in the 6th, and Andrew McCutchen for the 2nd game in a row turned into Andrew McClutchen with a 2-run bomb. Trey Mancini, he ties it up on a ground out, and Segura, his sac fly helps, and JT, he will not stop delivering in the clutch as Harper, he saves the lead. He throws a seed. He almost baited the runner and the third base coach into sending him because he didn't really charge it all that hard. He kind of just said, you know, the run is going to score, but then he fired it to home plate to end the inning. And Ian Kennedy, he wraps up a save for number 25 on the season. That was a huge W for the Phillies, but these games against the Orioles have been way too close. The Cardinals punched the Brewers yet again in the face yesterday. This is what I predicted before the season started, and with this W, the Cardinals are now 8-7 against the Brewers in 2021. Tyler O'Neill, he's not going to win MVP, but he is going to get a ton of votes. He now has 29 home runs and a 144 OPS plus. Lorenzo Cain makes a fantastic play in center field, but 2-run score because he was unable to get up that quick, and Harrison Bader is way too fast, so he scores from second base. Nolan Arenado takes over the game for the next 15 minutes. He has an RBI double, and then he has a web gem over at third base in foul territory. Now, he does get injured on this play, but I think that he's going to be fine going forward. Bader has an RBI double in the 7th as Michael has tossed 7 innings, only allowed 4 base hits, and Goldie now has 27 home runs. This one goes 433 feet as the St. Louis Cardinals have won 11 games in a row. You know who has not won 11 games in a row? The Padres. Chris Bryant, he gets it started for the San Francisco Giants. He clears the bases in the first inning and has been very solid. And speaking of very solid, look at Brandon Crawford. He is still playing elite defense at the ripe age of 34, 35 years old. And like O'Neal, Brandon Crawford, he's not going to win MVP, but he has been playing like one since the beginning of the season. Doval comes in with the bases loaded and strikes out Manny Machado on 3 consecutive sliders, and Tommy Pham, he gets him to induce into a double play. Crawford and Yaz make it 5-1, and then the Giants, they rip it open to 8-1 after Posey and Lamont Wade Jr. go off. Tatis, let's just talk about this. He does now have 40 home runs. They try to make it a close game to save their dignity, but they take the L after Fernando Tatis flies out with the bases loaded with 2 outs. The Padres have lost 5 games in a row, but Tatis did make history. He joins Johnny Bench as the only 22-year-olds to have 40 home runs in their first 119 games of a season. Like, that's a lot of home runs in a short amount of time, but to me, the Padres season, it's donezo. The Braves faced off against the Diamondbacks, and Ozzie Albies, he takes an early lead off a sac fly, and then enter one of the dumbest rules in baseball, aside from the runner on second rule. Duvall hits a 3-run home run, but it was ruined because Austin Riley legitimately thought that the left fielder caught it. You can't see that far, so he accidentally went back to first base and passed Adam Duvall, so Duvall was called out. He gets a 2-run single instead of another home run. Austin Riley does make up for it in the 3rd inning. He now has 31 home runs, 95 RBIs, and an almost 6 WAR. Ozzy Albies has 30 home runs and 100 RBIs. Dansby is 4 home runs away from each of the infielders for the Braves having 30 plus home runs. Ian Anderson only allows 1 earned run on 8 strikeouts, only 2 base hits, and Freddie Freeman goes yard for the 31st time. And then the Rockies, yeah, they rocked the Dodgers yesterday, and Walker Buehler, his case for Cy Young might have been taken from him by the Rockies as Brendan Rodgers and Ryan McMahon, they went off. And then the starting pitcher for the Rockies, German Marquez, he drives in 2 as the Rockies rock out for 5 earned runs in the 4th. And Chuck Nasty, he turns a double play to save a run, but LA, they come back to tie it up anyways. Trevor Story has a single in the 5th, he unties it, and then CJ Cron drives in another as Sam Hilliard now has 8 career home runs against the Dodgers. This was a 3-run 440-foot moonshot, so the wild card in the NL is looking like the Cardinals, cruising at 4.5 games ahead of anyone for second place. The Reds and the Phillies are tied at third at 4.5 games back, and the Padres, they're 6 games back, and again, I think they can't do it. This season's over. All right, everyone, well, that does it for today's MLB recap. Let me know whose side you are on in the Jays versus Rays beef. I think that Kevin Kiermaier took the L. Just get hit, go to first base. You stole the cheat sheet and you didn't give it back. Stop being petty. Bryce Harper versus Tatis. It might actually be Bryce Harper versus Juan Soto. Juan Soto is quietly having one of the most insane seasons in the history of baseball, and he's doing it at like 22, 23 years old. But thanks for watching, and enjoy this day in MLB history.
Right now, he's running. There's the throw. Number 40. Jose Canseco, the first man ever in big league history to do it. And now he's asking the umpire if he can take that second base back.
And he's saying no.